they are being transferred from San Quentin, from Soledad, from Folsom, which are the three major maximum security prisons in California. They're being transferred to Vacaville now. And I don't think it's coincidental that,
they're going
these
to
kinds of things are happening in Vacaville. They're sending them down there now, supposedly for psychiatric observation. They're going to be there for 6 months. Then they send them back, and they send another group in.
Maybe this is the selective process, then, that they're talking about
I
as
don't
it
think
relates
it's
to
coincidental that these two things are happening at the same time. And there are probably there's probably a lot of other things which are going on now, too, that we just don't know about, simply because it's so difficult for prisoners to get news out to the people.
Angela, there's something that's taking place in the prisons. There's an awareness that's taking place. But we've heard the term political prisoner emerge in the last few years very strongly. What is a political prisoner? Are there different levels of political prisoners?
Well, of course, throughout the history of the world, there have been political prisoners. We could even talk about Socrates, who was also a political prisoner. But getting into the contemporary situation, I think that many people have failed to see that the political prisoner is not only Bobby Seale or Erica Huggins or Huey Newton or the Soledad brothers. There are scores of thousands of unnamed political prisoners who are now being held captive in this country. I would say that I can lay out perhaps about 4 different categories of political prisoners. The first one is, of course, the political prisoner, the sister or the brother, who's in prison purely because of his or her ideas and political activities in the struggle for liberation. The crime with which that person is charged is almost inevitably a pretext for assaulting that person for his political beliefs. That would be the first kind of political prisoner. Then, of course, there's a political prisoner who, in a sense, has done what he or she is charged with by the authorities. And I can think of examples throughout the history of this country. Yet, I should point out that although he or she has probably done the thing for which the charge has been lodged against him, it's not the same, it's not a crime in the sense that the system defines it as a crime. Nat Turner, for instance, was such a political prisoner. He was charged and he was hanged for murder. But of course, from our perspective as black people, he was a valiant fighter for the liberation of slaves. And therefore, when he fought back, and when he led a slave uprising, we would not call that murder. It is murder only from the point of view of the a system which is trying to continue to oppress and enslave the people who are fighting back. Then, of course, there are all of the I could give you a number of examples of that type of political prisoner, but I'll go on to the next level. And that, for this, we have to go inside the walls of the dungeons, and we see thousands and thousands of sisters and brothers who have actually been, well, they have been arrested and convicted of offenses which don't necessarily have political contours, but once they get into prison and once they become aware of all of the currents and passions of black liberation and the struggle for freedom for all people, they become aware of what it is that led them to commit those offenses in the first place. They therefore transform themselves into political beings and become active behind the walls and are therefore subject to retaliation by the prison authorities. And we could talk about Ruchell McGee, we could talk about George Jackson, Fleta Drumgo, John Clouchet. And there's one brother whom we haven't heard that much about, and I think it's very important to talk about him at this point. His name is Robert Wesley Wells.
He's been in for quite some time, hasn't he?
He's 62 years old now. He's been in for over 40 years. He was convicted of stealing a car, and has been in for over 40 years. Apparently, Robert Wesley Wells was and continues to be the type of black man who will not allow himself to be dehumanized, who will not kowtow to prison officials, and who asserts his rights as a black man. Apparently, the Attorney General of California wrote a letter to the adult authority saying that they did not want a sentence set, a determinate sentence set for Robert Wells. They wanted the adult authority to leave it open because they knew that at some point, he had an indeterminate sentence, by the way, we were talking about that before. They knew, they said, that at some point, Wesley Wells was going to become involved with a guard and might possibly assault a guard. Then they could use this other horrible law that they have on the books in the state of California, which makes the death penalty mandatory for a prisoner who assaults a non-inmate. This letter is on file. I was informed of the existence of this letter by Wesley Wells' attorney. Sure enough, he was provoked into a confrontation with a guard at that time through a cuspidor, which hit the wall and ricocheted and hit the guard's head. It drew a little blood. However, the guard was back to work in about a week or so. Robert Wesley Wells was then charged with 4,500 and received the death penalty. Charles Gary was his attorney. Leo Branton, who's my attorney now, was also working on the case.